Heating and Air Coach's Corner, fueled by Donut Country and McDonald's on 1019, 100.5, 1450, WGNSSports.com, and BigGTV.
The Coaches Show is brought to you by Prentice Allsup Heating and Air, family owned and operated since 1977. Get the best service with Prentice Allsup Heating and Air online at PrenticeAllsup.com. Danny Brewer back with you. Feeling prettier than a pig in slop right now because I have got the Dean of Rutherford County High School football coaches, Matt Williams of Smyrna, on the line. Coach Williams, how are you this morning?
I'm doing all right, Danny. How are you?
Well, I'm doing quite well. You know, when we think about all the positives, I mean, it's a lovely sunshiny day. We got some warm weather, cooler mornings. It's kind of a great time of year right now.
It is. It's one of my favorite times of the year, especially when the weather cools off a little bit. And looking forward to when we get in those, 70-degree days and those cooler nights.
Absolutely, Coach. So last night, tough loss for Smyrna, 13-10 at Siegel, had your chances in the fourth quarter. But we're going to talk about a couple of plays in particular. But you got to be proud of your kids and the fight that you showed last night on the road.
Yeah, I am. I mean, in the fourth quarter, we fought hard. We put ourselves behind the 8 ball a little bit in some situations. But, I thought in the end, Zeke Key, our quarterback, was his first start as a varsity player. And I thought he showed some moxie and made some plays outside the pocket that was encouraging to see. You had some kids that may play. R.J. Williams makes a big catch on the 4th and 20 to give us a shot there at the end. And, I thought our kids did a good job managing the 2-minute drill. Had to kill the clock a couple of times. And I thought they did a good job executing those things. And, we just put ourselves, like I said, behind the 8 ball early and had some mistakes. But at the end, I thought we did a good job fighting. And, we missed 2 field goals last night. Daniel Aldana, our freshman kicker, has done a really good job for us up to this point. And, we've struggled. It's not no secret. We've struggled offensively, and especially in the red zone. There's been a lot of times where he's kicked field goals for us in those situations and done a great job. And, like I told him last night, he was devastated on, that missed kick at the end. But, it shouldn't have come down to that. There's a lot of plays, and it's never one play. So, we should have executed better in the red zone earlier in that game. And we gave up a couple. I thought our defense played outstanding. I'm not going to say anything bad about the defense other than we gave up a big play early that, was sort of uncharacteristic of what we've done. And, clean some of those things up. It's a different ball game, but, hats off to Siegel. They also played really hard and did what they had to do to win the football game.
It was very exciting. Even though there was no score in the second half, it was still extremely exciting because of all the hard hitting and the big plays on defense especially. I want to talk about a couple of kids for you guys. Zarin Butler, 8 tackles and a sack last night. How about that kid?
Yeah, Zarin's he's been that way every game he's played in. And, Zarin's just a really good football player. And, he's sort of injected himself in the lineup and made plays every time he's been in there, and he's a guy we've got to have on the field. And a great kid, fun to be around, enjoyed the coach, just wants to do good for his team and his teammates. And, we've got a lot of kids like that are just team guys that are bought in, and we've got a few that need to get more that way, and we're working on that group. But, Zarin is one of the prime examples of a team player and a kid who plays his rear end off. And I thought Jerry Martin last night was all over the field. I mean, he was physical and did a really good job. They got a big offensive tackle, and we put him on their big 77 all night. And that kid's SEC, recruit, and I thought Jerry more than held his own there.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Jerry Martin, a machine. I mean, I love watching that kid play football because you're right. When I saw the matchup there, I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna kind of spotlight on this. And let's see what Jerry does against it, because 77 is a mountain. I mean, the kid is a mountain, and Jerry whipped his tail all night long. 12 tackles and 2 sacks, and from a defensive lineman standpoint, 12 tackles, pretty incredible, isn't it, Coach?
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of times where he was chasing the quarterback around. Their quarterback, I give their quarterback credit. He did a really good job not getting sacked at times, but Jerry was out there chasing them all over the place, and the motor that kid plays with is exceptional, and it's a good example to the rest of our kids. How you should play football, and he's just a special kid, and there's no question about it. And has a motor that never quits, and just a positive kid. Even after the game, he was hugging me, telling me he loved me, and being encouraging. And That's the kind of positive kids you need on your team and kids that got your back. And, we've got a lot of kids on our team that have everybody's back, have a coach's back, have a teammate's back, and they're fun to be around.
Jerry Martin, no doubt, a huge asset and a very positive influence for the Bulldogs. Let's talk about the defense as a whole. I think the first 2 drives, Siegel scored. After that, they never even sniffed the end zone. Man, what an outstanding recovery by the Bulldog defense after those first 2 drives.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. On the first drive, we didn't help them. We kicked the ball off and got a personal foul that, they would have had the ball, I think, roughly on, inside their 30, backed up -30, and we gave them a 15-yard penalty to put them in midfield. So, those kind of things didn't help us. But I thought our defense, the bottom line is, and I told our kids and I told our coaches, if you give up 13 points, you should win. And we didn't do enough offensively to make that happen.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about offense. You mentioned the 4th and 20 play, that conversion. To me, that play tells a whole lot about these kids because it was an improvisational play because Key had to scramble and he found Williams, I believe it was, for the big 20, converting on 4th and 20 on a broken play. Good for your psyche moving forward, we hope.
Yeah, I think we found something. We've struggled with the quarterback position, and I thought last night Zeke made some really good plays, made some really good throws, and I think I counted we had 6 or 7 drops last night. We've got to do a better job catching the football, and a couple of those balls maybe could have been placed a little bit better. We had 2 interceptions. One was sort of Zeke's fault, and he would tell you that too because the throw was a little bit wide, and we reach up and tip it up, and our DB did a good job of catching it. Basically walked the tightrope on the sideline and picked it off. That ball, if it's placed better, that probably didn't happen. But 9 times out of 10, that ball just goes out of bounds, and that wasn't our luck last night on that play. But the other ball was just a ball that should have been caught if it got tipped in there, and I don't put that on the quarterback. But we've got to do a better job of catching the football and making plays for our team. And we've done that for the most part. Just got to do a better job. But I thought, Zeke, I was proud of Zeke last night. Your first game as a varsity starter, on the road in a tough environment. I thought he answered the bell, and there was a lot of positives that came out of that.
Yeah, I think if my stats are correct, 19 for 25 for 180 yards and a touchdown. So, yes. And also, I think another thing he brings to the table is he can run the football if he needs to.
He can. He's tougher. He's tougher. I don't mean this bad. He's sort of a slender build, I guess you should say. And, he runs it better than you would think as far as taking on contact and stuff. He's a tough kid. So, I think he's going to do really well. And, like you said, 19 for 25, and I think if we catch, most of those balls, that completion percentage is pretty impressive. So, we've got to do a better job. And I say to us, as coach and staff and everybody, got to do a better job of scoring the ball in the red zone. And we got to come up with more answers down there. And I think at times last night we got down there and, and I'll say this too, a lot of times players got to put belief into the coaching staff of what they can do. And, that opens up the playbook a lot of times. And that is sort of a two-headed monster there. Players have got to build belief and earn those things. And, the coaches have got to do a good job of putting them in the best position to succeed. But, we're all, I was in the office this morning before 8 o'clock, and our coaches are working as we speak to get better. So, you can either mope around or you can fix it, and we're trying our best to fix it. And there's a lot of positives in this football team, and I believe in this football team. We're a very junior-heavy team. I think it'll get better as we go. And we knew this year was going to be a growth year as far as, learning. And, offensively, I think we had 3 kids who had playing experience on the offensive side of the football. And that's not an excuse. It's just the truth. And, there's been some growing pains, and I think we'll get better as we go.
Well, Coach, you just touched on my next point. You don't have time to mope around because you got Rockvale coming to town this week. Every game in the region is a big game. That's all rivals. It's for a fan and for a guy like me that's a sports writer, it's a wonderful thing. I love it because every game is so competitive. So talk a little bit about what you got coming up with welcoming Rockvale to Robert Rake Stadium this coming Friday.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about the specifics of their roster. I do know they're generally big up front, and we played Rockvale for the last number of years, so it's not we're well versed in that program. And Coach Counts is a guy who came from Henry County that had a really good program over there, and they'll be really well coached, and we'll have to have a great game plan. And it's like you say, it's great atmosphere. I'm happy about being in this region and excited about being in this region. It's tough. You're going to face really good teams that are well coached, and that are going to have good schemes and they're going to do things the right way. So you got to always have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, and so it'll be another exciting environment. We hope everybody will show up at Robert L. Rake Stadium, and it should be a good ball game. Because
it's a Hall of Fame night where they'll be honoring the 2025 Hall of Fame class, so that makes it a little bit more special too, because there should be some old Bulldogs coming back.
Yeah, it's always good to see all the former players and contributors to the program, different players in all the different sports that are getting inducted, and contributors, and it's a neat deal, and I think our school does a good job at as far as the Hall of Fame. It's been a really good addition to the tradition of Smyrna.
Well, if you want to see some good football, and because every week is good in this region, as I just said, but if you want to see some good football, get down to Robert L. Rake Stadium, 7 o'clock kickoff this coming Friday night, Rockville at Smyrna. Coach, we appreciate your time. We certainly wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Danny. Have a good day.
The Coaches Show is brought to you by Craig's Tax Service, specializing in personal and business tax preparation, financials, and bookkeeping services. Find out more at craigstaxservice.com.